Can you hear me? Home studio audience. We rolling? Picture, good, all right. Welcome everybody to the regular Planning Commission meeting of October 1st, 2015, here in the Sierra Madre Chambers, and we'll begin with roll call.
Chair Goldstein.
Present.
Vice Chair Fireman Hunt.
Here.
Commissioners Buckles.
Here.
Desai.
Here.
Hutt.
Here.
Hinton.
Here.
And Spears.
Present. Goodness, we're all here. Such a long and detailed agenda, which someone would like to propose.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the motion passes. I guess I did that. No, that's the agenda. Let's do the minutes. Everyone have a chance to take a look at the minutes.
Yep.
Anybody so wish to move the minutes forward?
I will do so.
I'll second it. I'll abstain since I was not here.
And we missed you.
I know, I
Yeah.
missed you guys.
Yeah. It's good to have you back.
Thank you. Feels right.
Right. All in favor?
Aye.
They are so approved, and at this time, seeing no audience members, anybody coming in?
Oh. The mayor.
The mayor has arrived. Does the mayor wish to speak? No. The mayor does not wish to speak. And I don't think I need to ask for any audience comments because there is no audience except for the mayor. I will move on to the public hearing, municipal code text amendments 1503, second unit ordinance, and this has been before us before. Staff have some comments for us?
Yes, our planning manager, Leticia Cardosa, will be making a presentation.
Good evening, Chair Goldstein and Commissioners. Tonight you will be reviewing the redlined second unit ordinance that includes the changes that you agreed upon at your last meeting actually not last, but the meeting on June 18th and also September 3rd to address the remaining impediments to the production of second units in the city and to protect the health and safety of the residents. Second units, just to summarize, are self-contained living units with cooking, eating, sleeping, and full bathroom, either attached or detached from the primary residential unit on a single-family residential lot. Second units must have a separate entrance and exit, and an uncovered parking space on the property is also required. These differ from a guest house in that guest houses cannot have kitchens and also cannot be rented. Also, a second unit requires approval of a second unit permit by the city. The second unit ordinance was originally adopted in 2004, and in the 2008-2014 housing element cycle, it was identified as a way of providing affordable housing units to meet the state's RHNA requirement for the city instead of high-density multifamily units. The ordinance was amended in 2014 to revise requirements that were considered impediments to the production of new units. So tonight, the revisions that you are going to be considering, there's a summary on your staff report, and I'll just go through them quickly. Minimum allowable floor area has been eliminated. Previously was 200 square feet, and that was eliminated by the commission. The height currently is 15 feet maximum for a detached one-story, and you agreed to reduce that to 12 feet maximum for detached one-story. And also two-story units are currently allowed by right, and you also agreed to change that so that now a conditional use permit is required for 2 units for new two-story second units. Side yard setback along the secondary frontage of reverse corner lots. Currently, it's the same as that required for primary residence, or 5 feet minimum with approval of a minor CUP. That has now, based on your direction, new unit, it's 25 feet on secondary frontage for reverse corner lots, and also existing structures that are converted to a second unit would be the same as that of the existing primary residence, or reduced to no less than 5 feet with approval of a minor conditional use permit. conformance with all other residential zone requirements. The current second unit ordinance requires that for a second unit permit to be approved, all other requirements of the residential zone have to be met. And that has now been removed by the commission. Conversion of existing structures to second unit. Currently, there are no health and safety requirements prior to issuance of a second unit permit to convert an existing structure to a second unit. And the commission has agreed to add a health and safety inspection component to the ordinance prior to issuance of a second unit permit. So tonight you have some alternatives. The first one would be to recommend to the City Council adoption of the proposed text amendments to Chapter 1722, which is the second unit ordinance, pursuant to Resolution 1513, which was attached in your package. The second alternative is to recommend to the City Council adoption of the proposed text amendments with revisions. And the third option is to recommend to the City Council denial of the proposed text amendments to Chapter 1722. Staff is recommending alternative number 1, which is to approve. Planning Commission to recommend approval to the City Council to adopt the proposed text amendments to Chapter 1722 pursuant to Resolution 1513. Attached to your staff report, you received the red line ordinance and also a Resolution 1513, which includes the draft City Council ordinance adopting the amendments. So if you have any questions, this concludes my report. and I'm
Leticia, I have
to answer.
one question, just a clarification. If it says here in the kind of breakdown of current and proposed change,
Mhm.
construction of new story unit requires approval of CUP for consistency with the R1 requirements regarding second stories. Does that is inclusive of if I just have a second story added, not a two-story second unit, but a second story second unit, like on top of a garage or something, existing?
So if you have existing, an existing space that you now convert to.
No, you add a second story on top.
Well, you do construct a second
Yeah.
story.
Does that
would
require
trigger-
CUP?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Did you create-
What does not, what you agreed at the
Yeah, but
meeting-
I want to make sure, because this little, in here, it just says, if you build a new two-story unit, but in the text, it actually,
Right, if all you're building is the second story,
Yes.
is that what you're asking?
Yes,
I think,
yes.
yes, that would trigger the CUP. What the commission discussed at the last meeting, just so you recall, if it's an existing space already on the second story that you are then converting to a second unit, you agree that you would not require a CUP.
true,
Yeah.
correct.
Yes.
Do these units get an address?
They do not. They are not allowed to have an address because they are subordinate to the main primary residence. They also are not allowed to get their own utilities other than cable and telephone.
Yeah, I saw that the cable, the utilities, I'm just, my concern is that first responders trying to find the, what do we call them? So,
Guest house?
yeah, grandmother has a heart attack, how do we get there? So we assume that somebody's in the front house that can do it, or, okay.
Or that the person who's calling is letting them know that they are in a unit in the back or something like that. There-
And so this would we have a number of lots in town where the second unit has an address.
Because it's an R2.
That should be an R2 zone, not a situation where it's a single-family home in a second unit.
But are you saying more like informally people add a half or something?
They had a half or something like
Well,
that.
An A or B.
the thing is, the city doesn't control what the post office does, so.
I understand, that's just that when somebody calls, and, because they will have a separate phone line, and I assume that the 911 system will give the front address on display for the dispatcher. So, they're gonna come pounding on the front door and no one is gonna answer, or whatever, so, at some point in time, it may be helpful to have some indication that there's
Second unit.
another unit.
And the reason, just to clarify, the reason these are not allowed to have separate addresses is because then that opens up the door for them to get separate water meters and separate electric meters, which
Right.
then essentially converts that property to an R2 zone.
Right.
So that's what it's trying to do, is
An
trying to
R2
prevent
use.
that.
Okay.
So then they're expected to get a PO box if they
Oh, they can receive their mail through the front house, the primary house, if they want to do that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a possibility. You know, there could be an arrangement with that property owner to have a separate box that they can drop something into for them or something, you know, something more
Mostly junk
informal.
anyway.
But
And we talked about this once before, a couple of years ago. These do not qualify as Airbnb type units, correct? These would not be for short-term rentals?
no residential unit in the city is for short-term rental.
Right,
That is across the board on residential properties.
in all of
That is
Sierra
included.
Madre.
This is included, yes.
There are no units that can be rented out for the week or the weekend.
The city does not have any,
I understand, I'm just making sure that.
Google it, whatever you do.
I've already Googled it. We have many addresses listed with Airbnb. Sure those people know who they are.
yeah, the intent of second units is to provide permanent dwelling.
Right,
units,
and I
not
just wanted to
temporary.
make sure that was on the record so that people understand what the purpose of it is.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, good. Are there many comments? Do you want me to go through page by page, or do you want me to just ask for general comments?
I have one observation and two minor corrections.
Okay,
My first observation was at last meeting, Gina said something that struck me, was that the creeping mansionization of Sierra Madre, and that was even in the minutes. And that really stuck with me, and I think that that's something that, you know, we could choose to ignore or try to stop all growth, but I think it's better to acknowledge the economic realities and try to guide development rather than try to pretend we can stop it altogether. And I think this second unit revisions helps us in that. It's not an answer in any means, but it will help. And I think there's also some things we've talked about that hopefully we can get to in the future soon that will help as well. We've talked about a subdivision ordinance or changing the way we subdivide, and perhaps we could include incentives for retaining existing buildings or making smaller buildings. I'd much rather see the instance where somebody keeps an existing house and puts two small houses rather than demolish and put two McMansions. Also, I think it's really important that we get to the augmented findings for the anti-McMansion that we're going to review, because that's really going to help us guide how those properties look. We also need to get those so that they apply in the canyon and the hillside. Also, we can charge impact fees per square foot rather than per unit. That'll incentivize people not to build unnecessarily big. So those are some thoughts and how I think this fits in, and I really, as I've said in prior meetings, really in favor of this. The two minor corrections are at the end of 1722-060 on the top
page.
of page 4 of the red line. This is the provision that requires a CUP for second story. It does so by referencing section 1720-025, which is the section of the R1 ordinance that then refers to the CUP requirements in chapter 1760. And I think this is sort of needlessly circuitous. And also there's a possibility that someone might read it to say that it only applies in situations where you're in R1. So I would like to change the text requires a conditional use permit pursuant to section 17.20.025. And I'd like to take that out and add this language that says, requires a conditional use permit in accordance with chapter 17.60, including the additional burdens of proof set forth in section 17.60.041. And I think that gets the same thing we're trying to get at, but it's a lot cleaner and more direct. And if you are in the canyon zone or the hillside where you're doing this, there's no ambiguity that those apply.
Council, does that have any material impact on what we're doing here? No? Leticia, you good with that? Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody object?
Less circular.
If I may, John, if you don't mind, including the burdens of proof, what is the end of that sentence?
Including the additional burdens of proof set forth in section 17.60.041. And I can give you the text if it's helpful. And then on page 5 of the red line, in item GI of section 1722.120A, which is dealing with the heating, I thought we agreed to put in or functional equivalent, because right now it says gas forced air unit or wall heater, and we wanted to change that to gas forced air unit, wall heater, or functional equivalent.
Yeah, we did
If
discuss
I
that.
may,
And so that-
I was asked at the meeting to check with our building official, and I did, and he actually confirmed that it must be exactly as it is. It cannot be electric. It has to be either gas forced air unit or wall heater. So
Oh.
it's specifically,
What-
it is,
Why would that need to be? Because houses don't have to be that.
I can't, I don't know the ins and outs. It's a building code requirement, but he did confirm that this specifically has to be.
That has to be that language.
Has to be provided, yes.
Well, a wall unit,
Can be electric.
a wall heater could be electric, right? I mean, it could be any number of things, as long as it's built into the wall.
Or a baseboard
But why
type
couldn't you-
electric heater.
Yeah.
Could we
According
just
to him, it cannot be electric.
change it out and just say heating is required by the building code then? 'Cause, I mean, it just.
Heating as required by the building code.
Certainly, that could be, yeah, that could be a compromise.
Yeah.
Council, does that sound reasonable to you?
Those are my two corrections.
Anybody else wish to comment?
I think it's all in there.
No comments.
Yeah.
Any other comments going once?
I will make a
Any-
motion.
To push Resolution 1513 to support the text amendments, to Chapter 1722?
I move that.
With the amendments
With,
noted.
with the amendments.
I'll second that.
Favor?
Aye.
I think it passes unanimously. Didn't get the record, but it will be
think we
an
need a
early,
five-minute break.
it will be an early evening, if anybody wants to watch the ball game. Okay, I think that's it for the agenda tonight. And we don't have, oh, we do have an audience. Any comments from the audience this evening? Anyone wish to approach the podium? Say it louder. Speak up. Enunciate for the home viewing audience. I'm gonna ask for a raise.
You can get double your current wages.
I'm listening for more than that. All right, we have no comments from the audience except for the praise of the planning commission, and we generously accept that praise.
That's on the record, right?
That is on the record. Would any of you like to share anything interesting tonight?
Use less water. Yeah, we're not meeting.
Mr.
our
Mayor,
goals.
we're not done yet. I've not gavelled this meeting yet. Mr. Mayor, I have not gavelled this meeting yet. Anything from staff?
Just wanted to mention that the next planning commission meeting is scheduled for October 15th, 2015. And the agenda includes continued discussion regarding the R1 zone, establishing the front yard setback averages greater than 25 feet, and to consider allowing the encroachment of chimneys into the required 45-degree angled plane setback for second stories. Also, I just wanted to mention, I left everybody at the postcard for the Sierra Madre Honors Dinner. RSVP is set for tomorrow, so if you haven't done so already, I would encourage you to go ahead and respond to the, and just send an email to the email noted on the card. That concludes my comments.
I believe at 7:20 in the evening, we are adjourned.